Welcome to the Failed podcast, where we explore the world of failure. Each episode, we invite guests to share their story and the lessons that they have learned. I am your host, Sam Esquivel, and thank you for listening. And now we want to welcome our guest, Sandra McGlothlin. How are you doing? Welcome to the Failed podcast. How's your day going so far?
It's going great. Sam, it's so good to see you. It's been a while. But then I've seen you on and off for the last 40 years. So
yeah, that's interesting. In this interview, for the listeners, Sandra and my dad have worked together for, I think, 30 plus years, almost 40 years.
40
I don't know
years.
if it.
Yeah.
And so she got to know me whenever I was little. I don't know how little, but my memory. Born.
Yes.
My whole life. Mm-hmm. And so this is kind of like this is a first for me. And so if y'all see me a bit nervous, then it's because I am, because this is something that I never thought was going to happen. I know we've had, I've had conversations with you and Cheryl and Mark, and, we've had a lot of memories with Christmas parties with the company, and we've just seen our families grow and become bigger. And there's a lot there, but people don't have the opportunity to interview someone that has spent that much time. Our families are very intertwined in so many ways, and here we are. So to say that I'm nervous is an understatement. I feel like I just want to say thank you, first of all, for accepting the invite, and I hope that I can do your story justice. And here on the Failed podcast, we focus on failures and challenges because I've had a lot of them in my life. And until I started to share them, I realized the lessons that are in those failures and challenges for me. Mm-hmm. And everything that I've done in my journey from, teaching and inspiring young people, I didn't realize that was my fuel. And so that's why I'm on this journey, and that's why this podcast exists. And so this is the first time that I'm going to ask you some questions that are a bit personal, but they're for people to learn. Mm-hmm. And so I'm interested in your story. I know a lot of it, but it's just from my perspective. But we're just going to start in your early years. Where were you born? What was your home life like? What are some early memories you have whenever you were young?
Oh, Sammy, thank you for having me. This is fun. This is so neat to be with you.
Thank you.
And knowing so much about you and your family. And again, we intertwined for the last 40 years.
Yes.
This is my first podcast, so it's exciting. And I don't want to fail you in doing this.
You're going to do just fine.
So anyway, yes, I was born in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I have four siblings, 3 sisters and 1 brother, and great parents. Came from a great family. I had just the best childhood.
Well, if you had to describe your parents and as far as how they shaped you, because to me, the way a mom shapes their children or a dad, it's very different, right? For me, my mom was very loving and present, and then my dad was very strict and to the point. And I got different things from both of them. If you could sum it up, what did you gain from your mom that you're thankful for today, and what did you gain from your father that you're thankful for today?
I think the same as you. Our mom's so loving, always supportive, stay-at-home moms, or mine was, and so always had her there when I needed her. And my dad, off at work, very committed, stressed because raising 5 children.
Yeah.
But also, they let me grow, and I didn't know that there was any real boundaries with what I couldn't do. I was, yes, I was a female, but I didn't really, there weren't boundaries that only females do this.
Yeah.
They let me go and do what I wanted to do and encouraged it. And they never put, any racial, that you're Hispanic and a woman, that you can't do this. That just go and do it. Go be who you are.
What were some of the first instances that you saw that, looking back now, and you're like, man, I shouldn't have been in that room or that conversation, but because the confidence my parents gave me, I was in it. I was doing this or I was doing that.
Oh, so many. So many. I mean, number one, being in the roofing industry.
Yeah.
Back when, 40 years ago, there were no women in the industry.
Yeah.
I was the only one, especially sitting at tables. I remember my first bank board. I was asked to be on a bank board, and I really didn't want to do it, but I knew I needed to do it for mainly myself, but for women, for Hispanics. And
Yeah.
the thing about it is I realized, but I didn't realize that I was checking off 2 boxes for that board.
Yeah.
And back then, it was a much bigger deal than I think it is today.
Yeah.
So I went, and I didn't like it at all, but I knew that I'd had to go every month. It was just important for me to be there. But that was a good lesson, and it wasn't, like you say, failed, but every failure is a success. And this wasn't a failure by any means, but this was just one of those things to go out and sit there, even though I was uncomfortable and I was the only woman. But I learned a lot. I made great friends out of that board, and once again, it was a success.
And so when we grow up, we're with our folks for a long time, and then finally we start branching out, whether it be in sports, coaches, teachers. There's people who have an impact on us when we're young. What mentors or individuals were that you can recall now that you're so thankful for, and that maybe how they instilled what they instilled in you, you want to instill to younger people today?
You know, when I was younger, I think it was mainly my parents that were there and were the people that I watched. But as I grew, I think it was probably, my ex-husband pushed me. He helped me to be into to be in the industry and to step up and to do the things that I was doing. So I had that support, but then again, and it isn't the same as it is today. Back then, I got married at 18. We started the business at 21.
Wow.
At that point, maybe we were just a little bit arrogant, or we so much self-confidence, or we weren't smart enough to think that things could go wrong.
Sometimes it's good not knowing.
Oh, it was so much better.
The more you know, the more it scares you to get into it.
We would have analyzed it way, way too much
if
we were any smarter than we were. Luckily, we weren't. We didn't. It was a quick, we talked about it. We went through the ups and downs, but then we figured, you know what, we could do it. And this was the right thing to do. And again, I'm glad that we didn't overanalyze it.
So you were so young, 18, you got married. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're barely becoming who you are, and you start a business, and then you're married. How did that affect your identity growing up? Because it's almost like you have to put yourself aside, and then now you're a business owner and you're a wife. How did that create a dynamic that like brought challenges into your life? Like, did you know who you were there, or you just had to say, you know what, business and wife, and then you just move forward?
Once again, at that age, we didn't analyze it like this generation analyzes everything to where they talk themselves out of everything. We just did it. And the thing about it is getting married think about this. In 1978, graduated from high school.
Yeah.
1979, got married.
Wow.
1981, had my first child. 1982, started the business. 1983, had my second child. Man. So by the time I was 30, we were almost 10 years in the business.
Yeah. 2
children.
It all started at the same time.
Yeah. And that's the thing. That was the arrogance of us, is we thought we could do it all.
Yeah.
And somehow I didn't think about myself. It just was, I guess I was thinking about myself, and this is what I wanted to do.
Yeah. How does it feel though, looking back, and like everyone is so like focus now, but sometimes you do have to look outside of yourself to accomplish certain things. There was two major roles, being a businesswoman and being a mom at that time, and you kind of had to do those things. And sometimes, for mothers, for women that are like, for my daughter, I want to instill in her, like, hey, be a go-getter. Like, there's going to be plenty of reasons to keep you from doing what you want to do, but just step into it. But that's a sacrifice. How do you look at that sacrifice now? Because sometimes we look back and we say, well, why did I do that? But it makes sense now. What would you have told yourself? Would you have talked yourself out of it today, looking back?
No, if I could tell any of them, because I talk to so many men and women, and they're analyzing their lives too much, and they're a little bit too selfish.
Yeah.
And they're going, oh, but what about me time and my time? And you know what? I'm now at my age, I can have me time.
Yeah.
I can have my time, but it's a whole different level than me time at 21 or in my 20s.
Yeah.
Me time today is and in your 20s, you're strong. You should be working. You could hit it hard.
Yeah.
And you're physically and mentally able. You should be physically and mentally able to do it.
Yeah.
Then having to take that your 20s off and find yourself or take, which I think it's good if that's what you choose, but you might be wasting some time too.
Yeah.
Because you could do that on the back end, but with a little bit more money.
Where did this drive come from? Like, I see you and I'm like, man, Sandra is driven, like a bit intimidating to me at times. Like, you have done a lot of business. You have talked to a lot of people. Whenever someone talks about growing a business, what that is now. Multiple times you have done it with different businesses. Was it like a sport? Was it a sports figure? Or what was it that just said, I'm confident enough? And I know you said, I just had to do it. But when did it start making sense where it was teachable, where you're like, I'm doing this and that for this reason?
You know what? None of my jobs, none of my businesses have been work. These are all my hobbies. I've just had fun with everything I've done, and maybe that's why they've been successful.
Yeah.
Because I have fun with what I'm creating, building, the people that I'm working with. I enjoy what we're doing, and I guess that's why it has worked.
In your early years of business, is there anything that sticks out, like a pivotal moment or challenge that your business went through that shaped the way you do business now, or the way that you think now? How did you handle it, and what did you learn from it? Maybe within the first 10 years of going.
Our very first, it was in 1982. We had just started the business, the roofing company. We were a subcontractor, and we were doing a job here in Fort Worth. It was a 2-story flat roof, and I was pregnant with Cheryl, my second child. I had a 2-year-old, and Ronnie was up on a roof, and he's showing somebody a detail or showing the roof, and back then they used to run the felt over the roof but didn't turn it over.
Yeah.
And he walked right off, and it was a 2-story right onto concrete. Luckily there was a tree that kind of stopped a little bit of the fall, but he still fell, really bruised up. Luckily, he was in his early 20s, 22, 23, and really banged up bad, lost a couple teeth, and was, just, that was a hard, so that happened, and not really knowing where to go, because we're new to Fort Worth, go to the hospital and see what's going on with him, and I'm pregnant. Well, eventually he does heal. He heals well because he's young. But then I have a preemie baby. And that was hard. Just, and we had health insurance, but we just started business. So we bought whatever we could afford, which wasn't that great. But at least we had something, but it still left us with a large, large bill back then. So there was just a lot of stress.
Yeah.
And then she was, Cheryl was taken from Arlington Memorial to Cook's Children. She was there till she was 5 pounds, which took 18 days. Just a lot of those that I just thought, what, maybe this is the test that God's saying, if you can handle this, if you believe that I'll take care of this situation, you deserve to be in business.
Yeah. What are some things that you learned about yourself being a mom at that time and being a businesswoman? What did you, when you looked in the mirror, what did you realize about yourself that you didn't know?
That we have a lot of strength. We could do a lot of stuff. We get up early, we hit it hard all day, and we get up a couple times in the middle of the night, and we just take care of everything.
Yeah.
And we can. God doesn't give us more than we can handle. But yeah, those seemed to be tough years. We were so broke, so broke. I mean, I didn't know whether we were gonna be able to make it.
Yeah.
But we didn't overanalyze it either. We just kept on our heads down and kept on working. And we had great employees like your dad, who was our number one first employee, that just kept things going. And we all just rolled our sleeves up and went to work the next day.
So whenever, someone, is broke, for lack of a better term, there's a lot of things that we have to learn and do because of that circumstance. What can you recall? What are some lessons that you learned from those days when, money was tight that you still are thankful for today? And maybe it shows up, every now and then, what are some lessons that came from that when you look back?
Well, you know what? We were always broke. I mean, we were broke, but that was really, really broke. It was, are you ready to really fulfill this dream of owning a business? Were you willing to make some serious sacrifices?
Yeah.
Could you do it? Do you have the backbone?
Well, okay, so you were already thinking and dreaming and of doing business and growing it to a certain level. So I'm going to give you this soliloquy, and then I want to see if you have something like this in your background. So my mom, when she was little, living in Mexico, dirt floors, like, you said broke, but that's American broke. She was like Mexico broke. So
exactly.
it's so bad.
Total different story. Yep.
She would sit in her bed and she told me once, she goes, Sam, I had a dream of speaking, and she didn't know nothing about technology. She said my voice was traveling through the air. She goes, and I remember that. She goes, but I had no clue what that meant because of what was accessible to her. And then when my parents came over here to America and she was a little bit older, she started attending a church. And that's where her radio career started. And her pastor couldn't make it, and he sent her to cover for her. And that's like this idea when she was little became a reality. And she connected it later. Like, she talked to me about this 20, 30 years after that. But there was that connection there that was just kind of outside of her, but it was in her. And it finally came true. And then she ended up doing radio for like 30 plus years. Is there something like that whenever you look at yourself that you knew this is where I'm going to end up? This is why I'm made the way that I'm made, or think the way that I think?
I mean, even through high school, I'm the worker. I'm the one that you can count on, and I still am. But that I just knew that with my hard work, I was gonna be able to do whatever I wanted. But the other thing too is, I didn't know what a business was. I came from a family where my dad worked for the government. It wasn't running his own business. So this was brand new. So I didn't have anything or anybody to compare that to. So that's the other thing, is just kind of, I guess Ronnie, my ex-husband's dad, just seeing that they had a little bit more having their own business. But it was harder. It was harder than the regular paycheck, the secured income, the secure benefits, because you have to, owning your own business, you have to, you create that.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't automatically come with.
So people, when we're facing failures and challenges, we have a hard time making decisions. So the more failures that someone has, the harder it is to make the next decision or take the next risk or the next step. And that's kind of what hinders people from chasing their dreams, because there's a few roadblocks along the way. So as a successful businesswoman, how do you tackle tough decisions? And can you share maybe an approach or insight of how you handle critical decisions now from all the experiences that you've had?
What I've learned and I had to learn to trust it, is your gut.
Mm.
Yeah.
When
your gut says yes, when your gut says no, when it's a maybe, that's probably a no. But for a long time, I didn't trust. I kept analyzing, but I'm really quick on decisions, especially if I listen to my gut.
Yeah.
But I think it's if you can get to that point where you can listen to your gut and then go with it.
Can you recall an instance where there was maybe two sides to a decision and you had to decide, right? And it was going to be a long-term decision, maybe like we don't need specifics, but maybe something a little more so people can hear it and be like, this is how her mind processes decision making.
The thing that I learned in being in business for 40 years is 99% of your decisions can be changed.
Mm-hmm.
You can make a change. You can say, yes, let's go for it. But then you go, you know what? It's not turning out right. Let's go ahead and make some adjustments, or go left or go right.
Yeah.
You don't always have to stay in that, okay, this is the way we're going to do it, and this is the only way. Mm. Be okay. Be flexible. Be okay to change it up if need be.
So with all of this happening around you throughout the years, what are some challenges that you kind of had to face that have made you better today? Whether it be dealing with a new company, dealing with other, like just men in the industry, you being a woman and stepping into these boardrooms where maybe they weren't used to it. What were some of those challenges? And did you ever like kind of say, man, maybe I don't belong here? And what did you do to overcome that? Maybe it wasn't that. Maybe it was something else. But what's some challenges that you faced in the past 40 years that are just like that would help someone that's watching?
There's been, of course, when you think of roofing and then trash and then industrial real estate, it's all male-dominated industries. There's very few women. Even today, we're finally seeing, and which is awesome. But back when, there were very few, very little. And I think what I did to those industries and to our businesses were bring a feminine touch. Mm. I'm still I seem like a masculine because I have to deal with more men. But I think a little bit of a feminine touch has always helped our businesses. One of the hardest things that I think that I've ever gone through was when we had a van of 12 guys in a 15-passenger van mm-hmm. that went to Memphis, Tennessee to do a job. They had finished it. They they finished it on Saturday. They were going to drive home on Sunday. They were coming home, and they had stopped for coffee and breakfast, get gas, and they were coming back. And the driver just looked down. It was a rounded highway, and he looked down to get his coffee and just didn't see a sweeper truck, abandoned sweeper truck there, and he slammed into it. We lost 3 men at the site, and everybody was in the hospital. It just, even today, it's hard.
Yeah. I mean, I feel because I remember that moment, and it impacted the whole Empire family. It makes you reanalyze. It makes you ask a lot of questions when something like that happens, especially because there was everyone knows each other really well during that time at Empire. How did that? What questions are? I mean, there was some challenges that you went through at that moment. How did that make you better? How were you able to continue going? Because setbacks like that, for a lot of instances, it's a stop. Like it can mess with your head, it can mess with your business, it can mess with so many things. What were some of the big? And I'm not trying to sound like I'm insensitive, but what were some
Yeah.
of the lessons that came out of that as a business owner, a mom, a friend? What did it change in you? Because
Oh,
that's life changing.
it totally life changing. And, you get, we had a lot of advice from attorneys and insurance companies. Don't talk to the families, don't be there to, and that was just not the way we roll. So we were very, very involved in everybody's life, and the fear of, do we have enough insurance to take care of three families? So it was a long process. Learned a lot through, you know, dealing with attorneys and insurance companies, and even when we went to mediation, I drove two wives to mediation.
Yeah,
Because they are family,
yeah,
and didn't want any deal to be cut until everybody was at the table and everybody got what they needed and they deserved. And so that was just part of the deal. And then it took a long time to even talk without crying.
yeah,
And then, you just wonder, is this, can the company survive? Can we keep, not only financially, or can we ever get insurance again? Can we keep the morale up? But we did, and it worked out. But it was ducking and swinging every day.
What's the self talk? How did it change? Like, because that's from one day to the next, and then the months and years ahead dealing with it. What was the self talk like? Like at the worst, what was that self talk? And then how did you come out of it and say, I just have to step up and I have to handle business. But what was the hardest that you were on yourself during that time?
Well, that was definitely a point where it was nothing about me or my family.
Yeah.
It was taking care of others, and that went on for a couple years. But I even thought I can't even speak anymore, so I did Dale Carnegie classes to try to speak again. And of course, I cried every class, and I got a pen every week. So I won, which was silly, but.
What were the biggest lessons that came from that? Because we always, obviously, like every moment, enjoy the people that you love. Make every second count. Like, be intentional. We get those things, but I just feel like when it's that personal, when it's that long, when you have to deal with it day in and day out, like there's a different. It creates a new gear inside of you. Can you identify what you learned at that time? Why are you better today after going through a tragedy like that?
I think you just you're more caring. You know it can happen in a second, but not only that you're losing people, and the families and the kiddos that are left behind, but you know, is this business going to survive? And can I keep this business? Can I keep this business going for these other hundreds of? Because I never ever say men, I always say families.
Yeah.
Because it's if we shut down, it affected your family.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that accident affected your family, affected every family at Empire.
Yeah.
So I think it's just, I felt like I just really had to buckle down and, well, all of us just had to buckle down and keep things together, and we all had to just get closer and help each other out more.
And so in your journey, you're obviously scheduling your time and phone calls and meetings and paperwork. I can't even, it's a ton of stuff. When it comes to time management, because I feel like whenever we're speaking to maybe future leaders, or maybe we're motivating, like my daughter, these young ladies right now, they're going to have to deal with time management, whether it be a crisis, whether it be just building a business or being a mother. What have you learned about managing your time and getting the most out of it? Because there's not enough time in the day. So what do you do? What advice could you give us about time management?
There was a time when I was at some kind of a business function all of the time. Every night, every weekend, there was something going on to where I was burning the candle at both ends, and it was not good for anybody, especially myself.
Yeah.
And I had no time for my family. I had no time for me. And then I really broke it down and I said, okay, no more. At 8 o'clock on Monday, the business has me till noon on Friday. And then from then on, noon and weekends was just for the people that I love. And which includes me, taking time for myself and for my family.
So as a mom, you obviously didn't have a lot of time, but now you're a grandma. Mm-hmm. What are some things that you're thankful that you're like, man, I didn't get to do it because I see my parents do it with my daughter. They're just like, I'm just like, really? Like, you're just that good to her. What I remember when I was little, Dad, or Mom, what are some things that you're just, that just make you smile, that you have the opportunity when you spend with your grandkids? How has that made you a better person?
Well, the beauty with grandchildren is you don't have to you're not disciplining. You're not doing the day-to-day hard stuff that parents are doing, which is the greatest thing about being a grandparent. And you just get the love, the hugs, and the sitting and talking to them, and just listening to them. And because of our age, we know that it goes so fast. And so you just, you get to take that time to just spend, and I wish I could spend more time with them. But even now, they have their own schedules.
Yeah.
They're
busy. Yeah.
Yes.
So all these years, what do you think, what defines you now? Like, what are you most proud of about yourself when you look in the mirror today?
Good question. I'm most proud of course, my children. I really, really, I really, really like them. And their kids. And I think what I've worked hard to do is try to be the best person I could be.
Yeah.
As kind, and sometimes I don't get there, and sometimes but I work hard at it, and I've gone through so much over the 40 years that it teaches you so many, some tough stuff that you didn't think you would go through. And I didn't, I thought I'd always be married, and I'm not. I'm divorced. I wanted that marriage to last, and it didn't. Mm-hmm. I worked hard at it. It just didn't work. So those are failures, but with that, it's a huge success. I have my children, and I have a business. I had businesses with him. And he's a good friend. But there's with life, you just get thrown all kinds of things.
So when you hear the word failure, it obviously has its own definition in the dictionary, but when you hear it or go through it, how would you describe it?
I think failure equals success. You know, you have to go through it, and no one's exempt. Everybody's gonna get their share, but it's how you handle it, how you grow from it, what you what you make out of it.
Yeah.
But it's hard. But you have to walk through it, and you have to learn something from it.
What advice would you give to a young person right now watching this that they just had a failure right now and it's heavy on them and they got to find some kind of encouragement for tomorrow to keep going? What advice would you give us?
You know what? It hurts.
Yeah.
But you know what? It doesn't. It's a matter of time if you just work through it. It you're gonna look back and say, well, it wasn't that bad. And boy, I learned this, this, and this. Don't beat yourself up. Get a good night's sleep. Pray. It seems like slowly every day gets better.
Yeah. So I have some quick rapid questions that we're going to finish with, but I just wanted to take this time because, and this is a little bit outside of the normal, but is there anything that comes to mind as far as knowing my family, knowing myself? Because me sitting here interviewing, it's an honor to really to do it because I have so much love for your family. I'm so thankful because y'all have always been there. Y'all have done so much for us and so much for my dad and my mom. I can't even begin to say thank you, but I'll start by saying thank you for everything that y'all have done. And just till now, when you see my brother, his family, and me, and we have a younger brother, and he's working on life, but like the results are showing itself in us. I have a family. I have a daughter. We're doing it. And I don't know. I just wanted to say thank you, but give you an opportunity just to share, or maybe if there's a question that you might have.
You know what? Number one, and I know you know it, but you have the best parents.
Thank you for saying that. And and if you are watching this, you're probably wondering where's that emotion coming from. But like my dad started with Ronnie, and it was like blood, sweat, and tears. Like if you like,
Yeah.
it was work, and I know the things that my dad has done for the company. I know about his work ethic, and then
It's over the top.
The work
Over the top.
You think of the word perfection, and it has this weight on it because everyone's like, don't be a perfectionist because you're gonna be disappointed. You're never gonna reach it. But I can say confidently that my dad was a perfectionist. Obviously his days on the roof and his prime are way behind him. But I remember those days, and I remember what the guys would say, what Ronnie would say about his quality and execution of work, and those are the lessons that my dad gave me, but not directly, but through the people around him. And I think that that's the best compliment, is whenever someone else speaks highly of you, not just you speaking of yourself. And so, but he developed all that there. Like he grew up.
Oh, your dad, I remember, not only was he great out in the field and could do anything and was so committed, and long hours were nothing. He just was an animal workhorse, and
Yeah.
just unbelievable. And the support of your mom, she just, I don't, and that's the other thing is I don't know that couples could do it if you don't have each other's support.
Yeah.
And your parents had it, and they still support each other
Yeah.
so well. But when we converted from paper to computers, It was amazing. I'd go up on the weekends and your dad was there at the computer just practicing.
Write everything. What letter? He would write it down and go step by step. Why am I do? I have no clue. These are the steps.
But he's doing it. He did it.
Yeah.
And that's why I was like, you know what? These guys can do, he can do anything. This man can do anything. So that's why he's a pillar at Empire. And your mom, without all her prayers, what would we have done?
Well,
You know?
my mom talks to me about, because there was a long stretch there where she would make lunch for my dad daily, and she would make food for Ronnie. She would say, "I'm sending this for Ronnie so the guys can eat," and he would come over. And my memory doesn't serve me well, but my mom would say he would come over to eat, and because my mom's always been a great cook, but there was so many connections with food and talking, and it's crazy because. And maybe one day I'll be able to interview Ronnie and my dad and stuff. But they're whenever I hear about their relationship, it was not easy. It comes with challenges, and I love that they still made it through. And that's how the greatest lessons are learned, are through challenges. It is an easy street. It's tough. And they did it. And my dad is a different man now. And a lot of his life lessons, obviously, they were gained when he was young. He worked out in the field and stuff with his dad. Mm-hmm. But he learned so much being at Empire. He's grown so much that sometimes me as a son, I overlook it just because he's so busy, and so am I. But the times that I've talked to him, he shares stories.
But Sam, all of us grew so much. We were all so young. I mean, we were early 20s because your parents are the same age as myself and Ronnie. And we didn't know Empire was going to be Empire.
Yeah.
We thought we were going to have 2 crews and we were going to do a little bit of roofing. We didn't know it was going to be a monster.
Well, the name would say otherwise.
Yes.
I mean, you named it Empire. It's almost like you were foreseeing something. And so I don't know.
No, we didn't know better.
Yeah.
I mean, none of us knew that this was going to grow or morph into what it did. But it did because all of us worked so hard and were open to new things. And we were not good at staying stagnant.
Yeah.
We wanted to grow. We wanted to be better. Everyone, I'm including your dad. He was right there with us, saying, "Okay, what are we going to do next? Let's. What's the next big thing?"
And then it's nice that we all have grown up. And then Mark and Cheryl are adults. They have their family. And I've got to spend time with both of your kids. And we've talked, and we've had friendships at different times in our lives. But there's friendships there, and we've shared moments together. And even that, to me, it's not easy. It wasn't automatic, because from my perspective, growing up, hey, my dad just works there. But we got love. You know what I mean? And so, and I just want you to know that we were aware of it, that we weren't looked down upon, y'all have always received us well. And I remember the times going to your home. I remember going to the lake house and being invited to things, and I'm not getting shade on anyone else, because I know it's a big company. It's a lot of families there. But I felt like God had favor over us through y'all. Mm-hmm. And I was able to, occasionally I would walk into your offices, and those moments would stick out. And I'm like, this is good. But I had no understanding of it. I had no clue what I was looking at. I didn't know what the journey of being successful or having businesses was. But I do remember, here we're in this building. Now we're in this building. Now there's more trucks. Now there's more buildings. Now there's this. Now my dad's getting promoted. Now my dad, things like that. I saw it, and it imprinted in me. And I just admire y'all as a family, but your journey has inspired me, and I've had a front role. And until now, with this, me and you sitting down here, I feel like, well, there you go. I've had this is the first really in-depth conversation that I've had with you, and I'm 40 something.
I'm 60 something.
I don't give the exact number. There's no need for that. And but do you remember, and And if I have to stop, you tell me, okay? Because I'm
good.
now I'm just like kind of excited. But do you remember the early years of Sam? Because you don't call me Sam, you call me Sammy.
Yeah.
Do you remember what
yeah.
my dad would tell you?
Yeah.
Right? What's a funny? Or what do you remember?
There was a lot of prayers. There was a
Yeah.
lot of crying. There was Sammy. He's not going straight.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
having some trouble.
It's-
But I think, you know what? We cried and we prayed over all of our children.
Yeah.
You know, all 5 of you. We just we wanted only the best for you guys, and we'd share those stories and we'd talk to each other and we'd pray about you guys.
Man, life goes by in a flash, but
It
I'm
does. It goes
thankful.
fast. It
But
goes
I'm
fast.
thankful. I wish you health and many more years and much success for all your businesses and success for
Well,
your
there's not
family.
going to be that many more businesses for me. I'm learning to say no.
Yeah,
but
that's a powerful thing.
But I wish you a ton of success, especially with all the ventures everything you have your hands in.
Yeah.
And this
Well,
is
thank you.
fun. This is my first podcast, so thank you for making it very comfortable and easy.
Well, okay, here we go. I got a few more questions and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
What do you think the key to happiness is?
Key to happiness. I don't know. I'm always, I try to be always happy. And you know what? I guess the biggest thing that I had to learn was not to take myself so serious. Because I used to, I used to be so serious. And I'd get so upset if anybody looked at me wrong or laughed at me. I didn't know how to laugh with them about me. And now
Got it.
now I can laugh at myself so much easier, and it's so much more fun. And when my kids or my grandkids do silly things that I do, it's funny, and I've just learned to laugh with them, and much better.
What do you enjoy doing in your free time?
Free time, of course, I love being with my family. I love downtime. I love a lot less hectic, because I've lived such a fast, hard, busy life. I've gotten into yoga and Pilates, so I do a lot of that. Just trying to slow my brain down and keep my body healthy.
What do you think makes a good friend?
Oh, lots of laughter, loyalty, someone you can share everything with.
What are you most proud of in your life so far?
All my kids. Kids and grandkids.
What do you hope to achieve in the future?
That I could pass on whatever I know to make it easier for other people. Just so that when somebody falls, hopefully that they fall on a softer bed. But you just don't take yourself so serious. And that's what I'm seeing is this generation, especially these younger kids, are taking themselves so serious, which gets them so much more depressed, and they're worried about things that they shouldn't worry about. And if I could just help them try to get rid of those kind of stinking thinkings.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Sandra, for coming on. I really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you for being open. Thank you for accepting the invite. This is one of my good ones, and I'm very thankful. Very thankful.
This was
for
fun.
you.
Thank you. It was nice reminiscing.
Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe and follow, and just watch what we're doing here at the Failed Podcast as we continue to grow and bring these stories of growth and failure and challenges, and hopefully they inspire you and inspire your young ones as you watch this, and that we can all just grow together, not give up. Failures will come. Just don't give up. Failures will come. Just learn, and just keep it going. And like I always say, we'll see you on the next one.